280 something miles. And there's a place called Horse Cave, Kentucky, that back in the 70s, there was a guy and his son. I think they were riding some four-wheelers through a cave. And a long story short there, he wrecked his four-wheeler and he fell off of it, and it goes bouncing around. Maybe it was a three. I think it was. That's how long ago it was actually a three-wheeler. Back if you remember those, they only had the three wheels. You're a kid. I keep forgetting. You're young. You're what, 26? You're a baby. I forget.
Yeah, but my dad was in Vietnam, so I've got, well, it works.
Okay, gotcha. Wow, you really cut out there for a second. But so anyway, he wrecks his ATV. No, you're good. You're good. He wrecks his ATV and it goes bouncing down, and he's watching it roll, and then it goes to slam up against this wall, but it goes through this wall, and they're down there, and again, it was like I said, it's a place called Horse Cave, and which we drive through there quite often when we go messing around in the gorge, which leads me to the concept of state parks I want you to expand on. So he goes up to this wall, and he walks through this wall, and he sees this, he said there's a very distinct cucumber smell. Now, do you know what the smell of cucumber is associated with?
What?
Well,
Abduction?
Well, here's the thing. When you go and you camp in the gorge in the backwoods, they have down there, copperhead snakes. And these snakes, yes, they emit. If you smell cucumber, and of course you're not around cucumber in the woods, be very alert, because it's most likely a poisonous snake. And so he said it smelled heavy of cucumbers, and he walked, and through this holographic wall, of course, now keep in mind it's the 70s, the term holographic hadn't quite been, taken effect in general, backwoods Kentucky, right? You know what I'm saying, right? But he talks about this wall that he goes through, and on the floor, in this hallway, was an emblem on the floor that seemed to depict a serpent, a kind of like everybody has an emblem, and it indicated something of the serpentine nature, and he saw what he described was the Gorn from Star Trek in the 60s, the original series, that came out of a door and raised a device, and of course he took off running, and they left. And they left the ATVs were new at the time, but they left them there. They ran out of the area, and I had a friend of mine in the 90s that wanted to go validate, and he went hiking in a cave in the area and did find two ATVs in the bottom of this cave. So he took pictures, and I saw the pictures and that is the only validation that this event had even occurred. And I asked him, what about, and when he said once he saw the ATVs, he was too scared to go beyond of going into something that he wasn't prepared to handle, But the reptilians, the concept of the reptilians.
I just thought
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'll
wait till you're done.
I was just saying, as far as the reptilians, they've been depicted in Mayan architecture, Egyptian, and all the world over as being I guess I can't say predecessor, but a significant presence. I'll say that.
Yes, they're very old. They're a very efficient species.
Say that again.
Too.
See, you're cutting out. You can't talk about reptilians. What's wrong with you?
Yes, I can. I'm going to. If I have to drive to another location, I sure will.
Oh, that's right. You're completely mobile,
you hear
aren't
me?
you? Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. The thing about, you were talking about a cucumber. Whenever I go to my cousin's house, they always tell me I smell like moss. Like if you think about what a cucumber smells like, it's very earthy.
Mm-hmm.
And they always say, I don't know what you smell like, but you smell earthy. And I have a significant amount of reptilian in me. I'm in programs because of my DNA.
See? Watch you get cut out
That
there.
was interesting.
What happened? What happened?
What's the last thing that you heard?
Significant amount of reptilian in me, you said.
Yes, I have a significant amount of reptilian DNA in my body, and I am in projects currently. Have been and we will get later on. But I just thought it was interesting that you meant cucumber smell associated with reptiles. The pheromone.
Absolutely, yeah. And every time you begin to mention reptilian, you cut out.
Don't worry, I'm leaving the park right now. I'm actually driving.
You're actually driving, and you're being interviewed, and you're mobile.
Yep, and I'm driving.
Well, in discussing, I'll tell you something about the Red River Gorge. I don't know if I ever told you, but there's a particular cave in the Red River Gorge that the only reason we were able to access it is because it's high above a trail, but yet if you try to climb down without the proper gear, you can't get to it. Tiny little hole in the wall. And the thing about this cave, it's one of 3 that are visible from a lookout point. And it's the third on the right, if anybody even knows the gorge. But I climbed in it, and I was photographing, and it's just a little hole in the wall, and I saw a etching in the back wall that I mean, when you search the internet for Mayan architecture or Mayan depictions, this thing totally put you in mind of a South American creator. It absolutely it looked Mayan, what I saw, and I photographed it. I even had some friends at the University of Kentucky. I told them about it, and they went and checked it out. And of course, just like you told me, I'd never heard anything back. And now the cave is even more impossible to get to. And speaking of Mammoth Cave, in connection to the gorge, if you go to their website at Mammoth Cave, they tell you that one day Mammoth Cave will be a gorge, because after however many thousands or hundreds of thousands of years, what are you doing?
I'm driving.
That is an unbelievable sound. It sounds like you're in a machine. I don't know what's going on there, but
I am in a machine. I'm in a car.
Well, more like you're actually being ground up in a machine, I should say. It sounded more like that.
I was revving my engine. It's okay.
Rev the engine. But the Mammoth Cave it will eventually, after they anticipate 3 or maybe 400,000 years after erosion, it will be a gorge, which leads me to believe that the entirety of Red River Gorge at one time had to be a cave system. I mean, if you look at the geography and you work backwards, you begin to see that the gorge was an entire cave system at one time.
That's interesting.
Because we found carvings, we found petroglyphs by accident. Now, of course, they're all over the gorge, and those who know where they are won't really tell you. You can't just go and find it, because there's that air of secrecy, because people go to vandalize things like that, and you're just not supposed to know where they are. But the gorge, amongst other places, have become state parks, and there are national parks, and those were created by Roosevelt. And you have a theory about why these things were created in the first place, don't you?
Yes. These places are, they all have, well, one, they're all entrances. They all contain entrances to the inner earth. And 2, they are basically landing points. There are points where they know the population's not really going to be. So, I mean, they're going to allow species to do what the fuck they do. And which is abduct people, kill people, eat people.
And I was talking to David Politis, did the Missing 411 series. I think we've talked a little bit
Hmm.
about, and there was a
That was a
case,
great.
yes, about that little boy that was abducted. Um, what are the oddities of of the aftermath of that boy gone missing? One in particular. I don't even know. I don't even remember where it was. But you remember his clothes were found.
Yeah, neatly folded. Was that the one? And was it the boy that they found who was frozen or something like that? He
I
was
re-
tucked into a little pocket on the cliff.
yes, in a place that was impossible for him to reach. And
Mm-hmm.
David Politis actually got in contact with the. And now this happens around the Grand Canyon too, but around in Yosemite, I think it was, in which he requested a list of all the people that had been reported missing in that park,
Mm-hmm.
and they told him that it was going to cost him like $9,000 to get that list, and that they weren't actively searching for these people, and they weren't even
Mm-hmm.
searching about how they could have gone missing. So, do you think that
Absolutely.
there is an agreement? I mean,
Yes.
do the governments of the world? Go ahead. You know where I'm going.
Absolutely, especially if they're RH negative kids. But now I will tell you, it's a small warning. If you're going to go to a fucking national park, wear very bland colored clothing, or you will go missing. If you wear brightly colored, it's almost like you're enticing bulls.
Gotcha.
The second whoever you're with turns their back, you're gone. That's it.
Well, Megan, the and I'll tell you, we'll get together and we'll totally hit that RH negative thing, because that encompasses so many subjects that, as you know, I
Oh
had
yeah.
very little knowledge of, um because I may be negative as well,
Hmm.
and you and I'm in a family that where no one else has a rhesus negative blood
Yep.
type.
Me too.
Yeah, that's that. Wow, that could be, and we'll probably do that over a few different shows actually, because you've in the last I don't even know how long we've been talking, but you've opened my eyes to so many things, and that group, the what's the name of that group, the RH negative bloodline group on Facebook there.
Holy Grail, or
I can't remember which one it
there's a
was,
few.
but the one in particular that I remember, I started monitoring the group, and people were beginning to post things that, on an individual level, I mean, you don't tell people certain things you notice, and yet
Hmm.
they're describing exactly things that were impossible for anybody to know, and you have to come to this realization that, it's holy crap, there's something to this. And
Yes.
what is the rhesus negative blood group, blood type, has not been explained by modern day science, has it?
They never will. Ever.
And if they were to explain it, what would their explanation entail? What would they have to say that makes sense?
They would make shit up. Like, oh, it's just a blood type. They will not tell you. Well, they did. They gave an explanation for it, calling it a mutation that originated 10 billion or million years ago, something like that. Um, they also say they don't know where it comes from, but they say it originates in Neanderthals. That's bullshit. That is off-planet DNA that we have, and we don't have two strands of DNA. If you are listening to this and you're Rh negative, which there's probably quite a few of you, you have more than the double helix stranded DNA. And the more that you wake up, you're getting more and more strands. I think the max, take this with a grain of salt, I think the max is 12 stranded DNA.
That is absolutely.
And because, yes, and because of this, the governments have a deal going with the Greys, and the Greys are controlled by the Lizards, and they have a deal with the Lizards that they can abduct the Rh negatives, put them in programs, and the government will